it's so powerful to me that you can feel so isolated and so low and so disenchanted with the system and the support for the arts, and then the coin can flip so quickly, and all of a sudden you're fucking invincible. You're untouchable. And it's not I guess it's an ego thing, but it's just this total control and love and freedom that you can just be yourself, and it's just so okay and the best. And I just get so emotional talking about it because it's the most powerful tonic.
Welcome to another episode of In the Arts. This podcast is a deep dive into the arts industry where I talk to creative professionals about what they do and why they do it. I am your host, Tahney Fosdike, and in this episode, I speak with artist and designer Mikey Ting. We talk about the risk of burnout when you tie up your worth in your creativity, the link between art and mental health, and the process of putting on his very first exhibition. I found this interview super fun, and with that, I really hope you enjoy the episode. Hi Mikey, how are you today?
So good.
So good. We have just endured a few technical issues, but we're on our way with some kombucha in hand. So
Endurance is the key.
Yeah. So we're well and ready to start chatting. So outside of the stuff that you make, what other art do you consume?
I'm pretty typical in my consumption, I would say. I listen to records and I read books and I support my mates and I go to shows and I watch movies.
Yeah, that's great. What's it like? What sort of books do you read?
Typically fiction, which makes me laugh. For those out there, Tahney does not read fiction. She simply does not have the time.
Yeah, fake stories.
Fake news. Fake news. That's what fiction means.
Yeah.
I just read Wuthering Heights for the first time.
Really? Wow. How long did that take you? You're a fast reader.
About 2.5 days. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're incredibly quick.
I'm a really, really fast reader. But It also helps that I didn't feel like I wanted to put the book down.
Oh, that's so good.
It was a really cracking read. And it was just like watching reality television unfold.
That's so cool.
It was incredible. The characters are just so flawed and fantastic.
I should give another crack. I remember in high school, I wanted to read it, and because I grew up in the countryside, I didn't really have access to a bookshop, so I was downloading one chapter at a time, printing it off, and then sharing it with my classmates. We'd take turns.
Oh, that's incredibly cute.
It was such an effort. I don't think we got past chapter 3.
Back in my day, we had to print it off one chapter at a time.
My parents were probably not happy with all that ink going to waste. So, bit more of an abstract question. What does art do for you as outside of not as an artist, but more as someone who's taking it in?
I have always felt since I was a little kid that I could look at something and I could see the pieces, the moving bits, the cogs turning, and I could dissect an intention and sort of and take it and store it away and use it later. That's a whole nother discussion about input equals output and reappropriation of people's art. But for me, that was always primarily the goal. It's a more selfish goal where it's like I can take bits of things that I adore and that I love about certain work. And because I know that they're going to give me something in the future, I can really appreciate that fact.
Yeah.
So I guess in a way that is quite a selfish look at it, but
It's almost a collective way of looking at creation, though.
Yeah.
Instead of calling yourself, creative genius, where you're inventing things yourself, it is you're taking stuff in from everywhere.
It's definitely a more pragmatic approach. It's not, it's not a sense of, I have this incredible gift. Mm-hmm. It's just like, I like this, and I like that. I don't really understand that or get that, and it's not my cup of tea, but these things that I do like, I love them. Yeah. Or they make me feel a certain way, or I know they might inform my work really well. Yeah. And so I'll take those and squirrel them away. And I think that process is the bit that I really love about looking at other people's art, or experiencing other people's art, if it's not a looking-based art. And that's something I really, really love about collaboration and about working with friends and seeing other people that I know and love. And I get to see how that informs their work and then how our friendship informs my work. And I think that's really special and awesome because everyone has that ability, right? Everyone has close friendships with people, whether it's how you talk or communicate or how you communicate through making things. I think that's a really great part of interacting in collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And now moving more into your background, do you remember your first connection with art, any type of art form, whether that was music or...
I had a pretty typical upbringing in relation to the arts, I would say. My parents, although my dad is really creative, he's not a typical arts champion of the arts, I would say. Not taking anything away from my dad. He's the greatest human ever. But I was exposed to playing music from a really young age. Basically, my parents talk about this all the time. My oldest brother was throughout his schooling, it was really clear that he was a really gifted kid. And my mum was a teacher at the time, but they got some advice that was like, instead of pushing him up, push him out, broaden his horizons and give him lots to sort of sink his teeth into and really chew on.
That's amazing advice.
It's good advice, isn't it? And against, it's not really typical because a lot of kids, I guess it's not usual, especially back then and in a really small town, to have multiple kids taking lessons in music or doing sports or, it's just such a different time. But that's one thing that I'm really appreciative of my upbringing is that I was exposed to a lot of different things, not necessarily arts, but imbued me with a sense of creativity and expression through different facets of living. Yeah. All underpinned by, I think, being raised well. My parents are really good humans. I think I'm really lucky to have the upbringing I do, and even talking about it now, I'm sort of hearing myself talk, and it's like, I had super privileged, lucky upbringing, and I'm in a position where now I get to use that every day, and a lot of people don't get that. And especially where I come from, Hamilton, New Zealand, that, there are a lot of people without there too. So,
it sounds like there was like this underpinning of curiosity and like a sense of adventure with the world, even like, living in an isolated area. What was the first thing that you sunk your teeth into creatively?
I got music lessons as a kid. I remember my oldest brothers, when you're a younger brother, you just do whatever they do. So it was like, they had music lessons.
What's the age gap?
2 years, consistently. I have three brothers. There's one younger than me. My oldest brother played the guitar, and then my older brother played the violin. And then I don't remember making a choice or I can't remember, but I started taking keyboard lessons in a class.
Yeah.
Right? After school, I would go to we would go to a music school, and I would sit down with all these other little kids, and I would play the keyboard, and we all had a little keyboard, and it was super cute. And then I quickly moved on from that to getting one-on-one lessons, and the keyboard turned into the organ, which is rad, and I'm super thankful that I played such an out there instrument as a kid.
Yeah.
And then from the organ through high school, I graduated to the piano. Yeah, so I think my first, definitely music, for sure.
And then your music ambitions kind of developed past high school?
Yes and no. No, really.
No? Yeah.
No, I went through my university education after high school. So I was playing all throughout. Moved cities to go to university. Finished that. And then when I was on the cusp of finishing that, I got asked by my brother to join a punk band.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I had no experience of being in a band and no ambition to actually do it. And I just thought it would be fun for a laugh. And I initially said no, but I would help with the recording process if they needed someone to play. And this is, I didn't know what that entailed. I didn't know what a session musician was. I didn't know what playing on a record meant. I didn't know what touring looked like or playing shows. And so my answer was very non-committal. But that was the start of a very long next portion of my life, which was, that was me identifying with myself as a musician. And I took a lot of pride and a lot of, I took it seriously. And I really enjoyed that time too.
Yeah. And then how did you kind of develop from, identifying as a musician and then going into more of a design vocation?
Oh, shit. That was tough. I didn't. I had, when the band split, when I didn't have an outlet for that, that was one of the most trying times of my personal life, not even my creative life, just not having a voice. And I talked about that with my recent solo exhibition, which was, it was really it was a hugely low point in my life.
Yeah.
And I like talking about it because, I think everyone should talk about this stuff.
Yeah. And was this, after you moved to Melbourne from New Zealand?
Yeah. So, sorry, we moved from New Zealand to Melbourne, and then we gave it a good 5 years of
wow, incredible. Yeah,
of being a musician, and we released a record. We had a worldwide release on a major label, and it was great. And we were a touring machine for a long time, lots of fun. And then all of a sudden, I was no longer a musician, or in my brain, this is what I thought. I no longer was a musician, and it tore me up for the longest time because I still thought I had something to say in that medium. I still thought, I took so much pride in being able to, I guess, tell people that I was a musician or put that hat on and be that person. And so much of my identity was wrapped up in being what I thought was a thing that had a name and was, was transparent. So when that got taken away, I thought, oh shit, I don't know what I want to do. And it laid to bear all of my insecurities around my shortcomings as being a creative person and my procrastination to make things and my indecision, and it was so crushing. It was so crushing, and I lost my way for a long time because it's all the same thing. If you're an expressive person, a loving, creative, expressive person, then if you feel like the thing that you're making, or the connections that you're curating, or everything about you, if you lose steam and faith in that, then shit, that's a slippery slope. And that was really, we let us swear on this podcast?
Yeah, executive
right on, shit.
Decision.
Yeah. And it was, that was bleak. It was real bleak.
And how, when did you start to feel like you were coming out of this period?
I think that started with with my solo show and painting, which is so interesting to me because I still feel like an outsider looking in terms of visual arts.
Yeah.
And I think I might always feel that, and I like that.
Yeah.
When I started painting things and I sort of was honing in on the central thesis of my current work, I started gathering this confidence and this idea that I could be productive again.
Yeah.
And for the preparation of my show, I had to be really productive. And through that, I formed really good habits of working a lot.
Yeah.
And very naturally, I started believing in myself and my work, and really naturally too, this idea of talking about mental health awareness and championing mateship and support and community. It just came through, and all of a sudden I had this thing, and it was like the clouds lifted, and all I wanted to do was just tell everyone about this thing and shove it in people's face and just go, shit, I'm making things again, and I'm proud of what I'm making, and it's the best feeling in the world for me, coming from not having a thing. And I don't know if people have a similar attachment to the way that they make things, or the way they wrap, or the way that wraps up their personal identity. I'm sure it does, because there's a well-documented history of artists feeling heavy or feeling good or feeling, the whole spectrum of emotions relating to how they are creating at the time.
Neurotic.
Yeah. The tortured artist. It's so powerful to me that you can feel so isolated and so low and so just disenchanted with the system and the support for the arts and just having a dialogue in yourself, and then the coin can flip so quickly, and all of a sudden you're fucking invincible. You're untouchable. And it's not I guess it's an ego thing, but it's just this total control and love and freedom that you can just be yourself, and it's just so okay and the best. And I just get so emotional talking about it, because it's the most powerful tonic that I have.
It's beautiful.
It's
yeah.
There's nothing better.
And for the people who are listening who aren't familiar with your work, would you better describe what you make?
I do a bit of everything. I think I am a maker. I think I am a painter. I still dabble with making music and writing, and I design a lot too. Furniture making by trade. There's a lot of design work involved. But I think the biggest thing that I do is that I solve problems, and I'm malleable. So the most recent thing that I did was a painting exhibition. And months before that, I didn't even know that I was a painter. Yeah. I didn't know that was a thing. Which is rad. And I wonder what the next thing will be, because I might not have even done it yet.
Yeah, exactly. You never know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And it's always like, you can think you can't do something until you start doing it. Then you're like, oh, shit.
Isn't that isn't that humanity in a nutshell?
Yeah, definitely.
Right? We're convinced we can't do a thing.
Oh, definitely.
And then we give it a good old go. And it's like, oh, I can do it. I can do this thing. Maybe I can do other things. Can I do everything? Yeah. Right?
And then comes the ego, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm actually terrible. And you keep going, you're like, oh, maybe I think there's a meme that is like the artist, A Daily Life of an Artist, and you're like, oh, can I do this? Oh my God, I'm so shit. I'm terrible. Oh, this is okay. Oh, I'm amazing.
I'm best. I'm untouchable.
Yeah. So you kind of have, this creative side with your paintings, and then you've got your design work. So what does an average day look like to you? Did you ever think you'd be working creatively full time?
It's such a funny, I still sit back, and this is something my therapist talks to me about all the time, which is take a minute and just look at what you're doing, because although there is great things ahead and there have been great things behind, what you're doing right now is important. And it's rad, and you can take stock and feel it and feel the moment. And what I do now is just, it's the ultimate mixed bag of slacking off and taking the piss, but also doing the work. It's hard to explain. I think I have my main business, which would be furniture design and making, steel fabrication and woodworking and general making with tools. But even that entails 3D modeling and design. Running a retail business, right? The process of engaging in custom commissions and executing on that is in itself, it's a very varied, cool, fun job. And then add in what started as a side hustle with painting, which is now, I probably paint more than I make furniture right now. And that changes every other week.
And some days you're just reading Wuthering Heights.
And some days I'll just smash out a book. And other days I'll play golf. And it's so nice that I have that freedom to enjoy the mixed day. So when something gets a bit heavy or a bit, I lose my steam doing something, I can switch it up. I can, I can curate my own day and protect my mental health in the process. Which I'm under no illusions is the reason why I'm so high right now and in control, is because I have good habits with looking after this thing that I'm trying really hard to prioritize.
They're so important.
Yes.
Paramount. Especially like in the kind of, gig economy we're going into, I think it can be both a positive and negative thing, because people are going to be more in control of their mental health, having this more flexibility, but there's also that huge risk of burnout. The burnout's real. And that goes back to what we were saying about your worth as a creative and a human being. If that's tied up in your work, then you have to be really careful about what you show people and what you don't show people, and how much you work and how much you rest and how much you can step back and enjoy other things, because that fuels your creativity. I'm really conscious of overworking, probably a little too overconscious, to the point where I maybe am underworking. But the key for me is that flexibility to be able to switch it up and change. And that is interesting now that I'm saying it out loud, that it is sort of a natural follow-on from my upbringing of having so many different interests, I like to spread myself pretty thin. And as an adult, I can sort of, like, I know when it's too thin, right? I know when I'm not doing a good job in something, or I know when I need to learn how to do something, that I need to really double down on that and put a lot more time into something. And things will naturally fall back, by the wayside as I do that. If I read a book for 3 days straight, probably not going to do much work. Right? But that's okay.
That's okay.
And then, and then you're just going to feed back into the quality of your work. If sometimes I talk to creative people and they're saying they don't read, they're too busy, and I'm like, oh my God, like, how can your work be informed if you're not taking time to just enjoy your life and feed your soul?
Yes.
It's super important.
That's huge. And for a period there, you probably will be really productive and have rad work that a lot of people might feel passionate about. And eventually that ammunition is going to run out. Right? If you're not feeding that part of your brain, if you're not nourishing yourself by listening to records and reading books and watching movies and supporting your friends and going to shows and putting yourself out there and meeting new people is a big one for me. If you aren't doing that, well, personally for me, if I'm not doing that, that's typically, the pathology for that is typically that I don't feel confident to put myself out there. And then all bets are off. I'm not making anything. That's the slope to feeling despair for me.
I'd like to talk more about your paintings. So basically you have, found art, which is like these old kind of like Australiana landscape paintings, gum trees, that sort of thing, waterfalls. And then you intercept it with this cool graphic painting of like a really positive slogan. So I guess what I'm asking is, why do you choose these paintings, and how do you choose what you put on them, and why?
Someone asked me this question the other day, and I can't remember the first thing that I painted that was in this sort of the shtick that I have now.
Yeah.
Which is very much, it's become a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the natural progression. I remember seeing my friend Callum do a piece for an exhibition, and he had taken an old piece of found art that was like an ocean, a seascape, but I can't remember what style it was in. I think it was a print, vintage print, the typical ones that I do. But he had written a Seinfeld quote on it.
That's cute.
And just like, just in his beautiful hand-painted style. And it must have tweaked something in my brain. I remember looking at it and going, that's rad. And then forgetting about it for the longest time. And I guess in the process I would have picked up a paintbrush and started painting with enamels and getting stuck in, and I don't know, maybe I had a burgeoning interest in lettering and signwriting. I honestly can't remember. I can't remember when this light bulb moment hit me.
And with the slogans and the wording, what is your aims with that?
I don't know if it was intentional or not. I'm not sure if it started as an aim.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not really sure. It's something that I guess must be more subconscious for me, because trying to explain it seems really naff and a bit. Yeah. I'm not sure, and a bit forced, but whenever I see those old paintings, I'm imbued with this sense of nostalgia, and it's a history that I didn't really get to experience because I grew up in another country. So seeing an Australian landscape in an old print and having people say, oh, that used to hang on my nana's house. Or, going to the NGV and seeing the pioneer in person and not really being privy to what it really means historically. Yeah. I think I really appreciate that warm, fuzzy feeling you get, that it just reminds me of home life and family and being a kid, and it's really like naff, and I love the ubiquity of them, and that it's so funny that you can get a print in so many different shapes and sizes of the same print. Yeah. And one will be really crap, and one will be really sharp, and one will have a really bad frame, and another will be, in states of disrepair, and I just think it's just so good, and that feeling naturally for me translates into this discussion about how it makes you feel. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
And how do you choose the words that you put on there?
Input equals output. If I see something, I typically will write it down or rewrite it or think about what that means to me. And I keep a little notepad on my phone of things that I see or things people say to me. Yeah. Right? You've probably got those particularly erudite friends that say things and you're like, that came out of your brain? That's incredible. You just said that? Yeah. And so I write those things down.
Because all these things are quite positive, right? And empowering, the things you paint on there.
Yeah, or...
Are you trying to uplift people?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. It's an honest reflection of, I guess...
Or are you trying to make them more for yourself? Or are you trying to make them more for the audience?
I mean, optimism aside... They're more a reflection of a support that I would like to give people, or I'd like my art to give people, where they see it and that instant gratification goes, yes, that makes me feel amazing because I know that this person is feeling it too. So it doesn't necessarily have to be optimistic, though I probably paint more optimistic words than I don't. But it's more about that celebration that people go through, are going through a tough time just like you are, and that we all have those moments and those periods of our lives where things just seem so beige or average, right? But that there are definitely moments and pockets of time where there are bigger things, and there are great things on the way, basically.
That's lovely.
I really want people to feel like they're not by themselves, and I guess that's a bit cliche, right? That whatever you're going through, people are going through it as well. But the more you talk about this stuff with people, and the more you just chop it up about the real, what's really going on, people are struggling, people are having a good time, but the common thread is that the more you talk about it, just the more, I guess, the better you feel.
Definitely.
It's a nice feeling to know that when people say they have your back, if you know explicitly that they are going through similar things, or they're going through a heavy time, and they still have your back, or they have your back in a way that, is not just like, I got you.
Yeah.
There's a real meaning and a motivation behind it. That is ultimately very freeing.
Yeah.
And it's a nice moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I want to go more into the context of how you're working. So you're kind of like in between of the art scene, but also the design industry. So would you be able to explain the differences, but also the overlaps between visual art and design?
It's a meaty question for my line of work. Custom commissions by nature are... It's a...
I guess kind of like how do you... because, it's your bread and butter, what you're making, but you're also putting your creative energy into it. So you're kind of balancing restraint, I guess, in a way, but also expression.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
It's different every day.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm making this more complicated.
No, it's fine. This is the meat and potatoes of the conversation.
Yeah.
This is what I want to talk about. It's probably what people want to hear. People who are maybe embarking on this journey themselves. It's important to hear that some days it's...
And I guess some people feel, in the arts, feel shame to kind of embark on more of a commercial aspect of their work that's quite creative.
Yeah, and there are things that you can... There are things that you can protect and not compromise on. And there are things that you can go in and just say, you know what, it doesn't really matter how people see this or think. I can do this I can ride that line between a trade and an expression. Yeah. And I can make it work. Right?
How do you do that?
How did I do that? I learned the tough way by doing it and making mistakes and figuring out what I could and couldn't protect. Now I do that by trusting my gut and honoring that feeling where if something is going a way that I don't appreciate or enjoy, being transparent. Yeah. And telling people, yes or no or whatever. And really actually protecting myself and my interests. But typically the style of work that I have done and my voice and the way I create the content on my social media, the way I curate my image typically attracts a sort of person or customer or someone who appreciates what I do. And it's a very natural process. It would be different if this existed in a vacuum and I was cold calling people saying, do you want a custom commission for a painting? And this is what I do. And do you like it? And let's go. Right? It's different when people they come sitting to the table knowing what they're going to get, essentially. Yeah. So my job is to sort of, in a lot of ways, my job is to just give them my most honest effort at expressing something rad, and that
Yeah.
might have a bit of input from them, or might have a lot of input from them, and the amount of input that people give me is directly dictated by me too, because I could just, at any moment, I can just say, I got you from here, or you know, quite honestly, I'll ask people exactly what they want. What do you want? Like, what colors do you want? What style do you want it in? What do you want it to say? And then from there, it's a very natural discussion about, here's where I'm good, and I step in, and I can make it work in those ways. But really, that writing the line, it's an interesting one, and I think it's more interesting for my furniture, because furniture by nature is utilitarian. It's a thing that typically it does a job.
Yeah.
You can build a desk for someone at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's a fucking desk.
Yeah.
I can imbue it with a sense of creativity and make it very sculptural and make it great, but you're going to put a bloody cup on the thing.
Yeah.
You're going to set it and work.
It solves problems.
It solves a very, very black and white problem.
Where do I put my cup?
Exactly. People can't just have their cups floating next to them.
Yeah.
Right? They got to have the thing.
Do you enjoy having that pragmatism in your life?
I like that I have the mixed day, right, where I can do something that is very pragmatic, but then I can do something that is very waffly and airy-fairy and you know, and make it up as I go. Some days I'm really like keen on this idea of building something utilitarian. I actually really like that about furniture. It's the reason I don't build other things like houses, I guess, or, well, I mean, there's other reasons why I don't build bloody houses, but like, that, you know, that's typically why I wasn't interested in being a carpenter. And I still, to this day, I'm not super keen on doing more traditional carpentry.
Yeah.
I'm more interested, I guess, in the sculptural and design elements and having something to say through my work. But the crux of the question is really interesting to me, because furniture can be as many things as you want it to be, but you know, like a desk is a desk. A TV console, you're going to put a TV on it. A sideboard is going to hold records, right? It's typically a vessel for. It's a vessel and a way for people to make something or a room or a home seem designed. Yeah. But typically that will involve other things too. The furniture merely becomes the vessel for all the other things that they want to put on it and display. Yeah. Typically that's how I would see it, because that's how I use furniture. So I guess that in and of itself informs my work. But that right in the line between the two, some days is really challenging, and other days it's a very natural, freeing, awesome feeling. Yeah. And you know, that is not, it's not an accident that I have these different areas that I can dabble in, because too much of one thing is suffocating for me. Too much following a plan. For you know, following a welding or a fitment plan for a steel fabrication job. Too much of that, I'll just go insane. Too much painting, too much, you know, not enough. Here's how you do it, and this is exactly the pieces you need. That's important too. You know, so I like a bit of both. So
be cool to talk about to your exhibition, because you've got your business, and then recently you had an exhibition. Was this your first exhibition?
My very first. My first. I thought I would bite off a bit more than I can chew and just have a solo.
You're like, here we go. So for those listening, Mikey recently had an exhibition. It was called You Got This, an exhibition of love at Cato Warehouse in Richmond in Melbourne, one of those inner city trendy suburbs. Melbourne. And it was also in collaboration with Tell Your Friends You Love Them. Can you tell me more about that collaboration and who they are?
Tell Your Friends You Love Them is a social initiative that is run by my friend Matt O'Brien. And Matto is very dear to me. And he does great work. And he's one of those people that I'm sure everyone listening who knows Matto will agree. He is just a generous, warm, perfect spirit. And anything that anything that he is a part of, typically there are people smiling and feeling great and having a candid discussion about how it makes them feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's no pretension and there's no assumption. It's just a very loose approach to let's talk about real stuff. And if you don't want to, that's cool too. But if you want to, I'm here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so the events that they run and the things that they push, the agendas that they push are a natural extension of the quality of human that Maddo is. And as soon as I met him, I instantly thought we should do something.
And so how were they involved in the exhibition?
So through the process of trying to find a not-for-profit, I was putting myself out there, and I was feeling a bit disenchanted with the quality of feedback that I was getting, because not-for-profits typically are on demand and totally overworked.
Yeah.
So it's not likely that they're going to meet, I guess, these cold call emails with yeah, rad, I'll just drop everything I'm doing and I'll totally support this thing that this crazy idea that you want to have. But in my brain, it got to the point where I was starting to feel like I was pestering people a bit, and people around me that I trust were saying, that's not a feeling that you should be feeling about something that you are passionate about and you love. And that's totally cool. So I understand where they're coming from, but what I need someone to be hyped. I need someone to know that, from day dot, hey, Maddo, do you want to be a part of this? I think it would be rad. Fuck yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I suppose
then
you
we were
guys
going.
have quite a similar interest as well.
Yeah. And then it just became this it was a really easy decision. I was sitting there one day and I thought, man, I'm not having any luck with finding a really great way to tie this into a community effort. Why don't I just go with tell your friends you love them, because it's something that's already there and existing, and they need finances to be able to put on more events and do great work. So I said, let's do that.
That's
and then
awesome.
Maddo obviously said, yes, let's do that.
That's cool.
So we did that.
And so it sounds like it was a lot of work in the lead up. What about the kind of delivery? Did you have any responses to your work that stood out to you?
When I started the exhibition, so I bit off more than I could chew. I signed on for the show, and I didn't really know what that meant, apart from going to exhibitions and seeing them and sort of understanding how the cogs worked, right? I signed it, and then I just started making the work, and I didn't even have that idea of that it would be about mental health. That still didn't exist. It was just a collection of my paintings that were like very instant gratification, rad. Yeah. Cool stuff. Very quickly that became a real fundamental part of what I wanted to say. Yeah. And it just kept picking up steam, and I knew in my gut that it was something that it was like, okay, double down on this. This is, for the first time in a long time, you're not just creating for creating's sake. There's something bigger at play. And that it quickly turned from a optimistic, I'll make 15 to 20 pieces for this exhibition, and then once I grabbed hold of that idea, I blinked and I had 40 paintings.
Wow.
It just kept on growing, and I just kept painting, and every day I would just I'd get home from working in my shop or training or whatever, and I would just paint. Every night I would just paint, and
Beautiful.
It didn't feel like a chore. It didn't feel like something that I was practicing. It was just it was routine and it was fun.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I had all this work and this great sort of unifying theme, and at no point in the lead up did I feel stressed or overworked or I'm not going to make the deadline, or there was no anxiety about it, because once I eclipsed my initial target of having 15 pieces so it wouldn't look ridiculous that there was only 4 things in the gallery. It was like, okay, well, this is not a problem now. I'll just keep making for fun. And then someone, Callum mentioned to me, he's like, you should just all hang them like it's a pool room. Like, Like just throw convention out the door. It's not highbrow work. This is for everyone. just put it all up and see how it makes people feel. And that was a really cool
How do you think it made people feel?
I think it made people feel like how I felt, which was happy and a little bit confused about how one person can do all like this amount of work could happen so quickly, because it all happened within 3 months.
Wow, incredible.
And warm and fuzzy, and
That's
that
nice,
they feel like there's someone at least out there in me that is, although I look like I have all my shit together, struggle street sometimes. That's just the nature of being a human. It's not all great, but even the not great bits, you wouldn't trade them. I wouldn't trade mine. And I would hope that that's what people thought when they walked in. I had lots of people say great stuff, very genuine great stuff.
That's nice.
Although it was very validating, the things that they were saying, I think just the looks on people's faces and the knowing exchanges between lovers when they look at a piece that they thought, it might have been a little connecting personal moment for them. Or friends took their kids to see it because they thought,
nice.
It's just little things like that. It was just, for me, that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Do it again just for those.
I guess that's a nice note to finish on. Just one more question.
Yeah.
What can we see from you in the next 12 months?
Ooh, interesting. I'm just about to move into a bigger space.
Lovely. Congratulations.
So, thank you. One of the very exciting things that's happening for me at the start of 2020 is my friend Ella and I. Ella runs a fabulous gym space. She coaches strength and conditioning for everyone, and she's not coy about everyone meaning everyone. So her gym spaces, she's just trying to smash the conventions of the regular gym, which are jaded and disgusting and so not inclusive for
definitely
for all these great different humans that are out there. And so she is about to upgrade her space, and we thought, we have really similar brains and we're trying to do lots of cool stuff. It's way easier and better and more fun. Let's do it together.
Collective, that's amazing.
Let's do it as a collective. So
not often you see the fitness industry colliding with like these other
It's gonna be Melbourne's, I would think it's gonna be Melbourne's first weightlifting gym and metal shop and woodworking shop and furniture design company.
Cool.
So yeah. So
nice.
that's something that's going to happen, I think, at the start of this year. I think it's going to happen. And then, I don't know, I got asked recently if I'm going to have another exhibition, and I just don't know if I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know when the next thing is going to come around that I'll have something meaningful to say, because I wouldn't do another one without something meaningful to say.
Definitely.
What's the point?
Yeah, that's just clout for your name,
But in the meantime, I'm still painting, and I'm still doing commissions and still making furniture, but we'll see. I've been writing a lot recently, and I've been making a bit more music, and I feel like I'm angling in on having something to say in that realm again, which is scary. Yeah. But also
exciting.
It's so exciting because I haven't felt like that in ages regarding music, and I just love playing music. I love it. I love it so much, and being able to play something that is, a really true representation of me would be looking forward to the future. Hopefully would be just everything. It would be everything. So we'll see. I'll just keep chipping away, but I'm not putting pressure on myself. There's still lots of great work being done every day. Or I skype off and I read a book. Or I just do nothing. And ultimately I think that, this podcast being about the arts and being accessible, if you are in that position where you are potentially honing in on an idea where you want to express how you feel and give it up for people, then I would say do it, and don't put too much thought into what that means and what the usual ways of doing it are. And you can get hung up on trying to do something that has been done before because that's the way it's supposed to be done. But I guess the central thesis of what this is all about is that if you have something you want to say it in whatever way you want.
Yeah.
And there will be people that will gravitate towards it. I am proof of that because I'm drawing fucking doodles on old canvases.
Yeah.
And what a response. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
So just do it. If you have something to say, there's so many people out there that would just love it.
Awesome.
If it's a representation of how you feel, even more so, double down on it. Just
and
go
all
go
need
hard.
to be touching with our feelings more, you know. Thank you so much for plugging in and listening to my little podcast today. If you want to hear more of In the Arts, episodes are on all podcast apps like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Wherever you find your podcast, it will be there. Admittedly though, this is a bit of an experiment for me. I have no performance or public speaking experience, so I'm coming to this very green. So it would mean the world to me if you could let me know if you are listening and enjoying the show. You can do so by subscribing on one of those podcast apps. You can leave a review, which would be lovely. Or you could even just do something like popping a screenshot of the episode in your Instagram story. You can tag me. My Instagram is tansuperdry, like the beer, Han Superdry. I'll pop this all in the show notes. Again, thanks for listening.